George Vic. George Edward the Seventh. Edward the Seventh. Around 1910 and 12 o'clock. Into the constitutional monarchy to defend our monarchy against these Republicans. Great Hall of the National Gallery. Australian constitutional monarchy. No republic meeting. Half an hour to the meeting. All starting to fill.
Good afternoon, everybody. I invite you all to stand for our national anthem.
Allah
established as an immediate and direct response to the Keating government's announced intention to hold a referendum in 1998 or 1999 to test Australia's desire to remove the Crown from our Constitution and introduce a republican form of government. It's taken the Prime Minister 21 months to respond to the report of the government-sponsored advisory committee set up under Malcolm Turnbull. 21 months with the Republican theorists to try to sort out what they really wanted to do, and they still don't really know. The Prime Minister wants a minimum solution, a solution Malcolm Turnbull protests will never work. All Mr Keating wants is a Governor-General type figure, called by another name, appointed by somebody other than the traditional historic process of a royal appointment. How simple it all sounds, and how dreadfully inadequate. Our head of state of the truly independent Australia we know today, if the Keating government's plan were adopted, would cease to be a figure above politics. The appointment would be determined by political consultation and political manoeuvring between the parties in Parliament. I can just see them now having a parliamentary picnic, working out who they'll let the other side get away with putting up to be the President. As a result, the inbuilt checks on the abuse of executive power in our democracy would be significantly eroded and could well lead to a period of considerable political instability. So why do it? We, the supporters of Australia's constitutional monarchy, are convinced that when the issues are fully understood by the Australian people, the result of any referendum will be beyond doubt. We will win. No republic. The Republican push will be seen as unnecessary, unwanted and unwise. The immediate task is to make sure that this full understanding becomes a reality across the community. That's why we're here today. Today's speakers will not only tell us why, but show that support for maintaining the Crown in our Constitution is not the prerogative of any one group or political party. Our speakers, like our thousands of supporters across Australia, are representative of the whole community. They come from diverse backgrounds, they hold a variety of political views, they speak for different generations, and they have had different experiences in life. But they are united to uphold the place of the Crown in our Constitution. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you our first speaker, a young man, Michael Brien, a Melbourne solicitor, commenced practice only 4 years ago in 1991, but he's one of the articulate, clear thinkers of his generation. Please welcome Michael Brien.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, let me let you into a secret. I really like Tom Sacred Queen. You know, I can remember when I was in primary school and we used to listen to it every morning, we used to sing it, and I must say it still brings a lump to my throat. But nevertheless, I was a bit disappointed that it was played at the beginning of this gathering because it is no longer Australia's national anthem, and with respect, it is not what this debate is about. And I think that it's very important for us not to tie ourselves back to the past, however great that past may be, not to anchor ourselves in Australia's history as a former British colony and as a constitutional monarchy, but to look for the future. People now are saying not so much what have we had in the past, but where is this all going to get us in the future? Now, that's what I think personally, and I think you'll find it's also what mainstream Australia is thinking. And from my point of view, if we're going to win this debate, if we're going to stop there being a republic imposed by Mr Keating, what we have to do also is look not to the past but to the future. The past is glorious. The past has bequeathed Australia an excellent system of government, about which I'll speak more in a moment. But we must look to defending it not on the grounds that it's what we've always had, or even for I share, but because it is the best system of government for Australia now and in the foreseeable future. If we tie ourselves to the past symbols of the monarchy and the crown and everything, we will be just as vapid and shallow as the Republicans are when they make their main argument one of simply symbolism. The reason why this debate is so important, the reason why I'm here today, is that it is not about symbolism, it's much, much more important than that. If it were just about symbolism, as a patriotic Australian, I might well say, oh, well, let's get rid of the Windsor family in Britain and, we'll become a republic. But it's much more important than that. It's about our system of government, and it's about the system of government that is going to guarantee us in the future the kind of stability, integrity, representation and democracy that we have now. Now, it's been said in the past that one cannot guarantee success, one can only deserve it, and I don't know that we can guarantee success. I think if the referendum is held when Mr Keating says it is, it may well be that we'll get up, and that we will be able to stop there being a republic now, but I can't guarantee that. What I can say to you is that we must deserve success, and we must do that by not looking backwards but by looking forwards. Tradition has a very important role, provided you know how to use it. Tradition in the past is important because it can tell you how to behave in the present and in the future. We can look back on our great, has a very important role, provided you know how to use it. Tradition in the past is important because it can tell you how to behave in the present and in the future. We can look back on our great tradition of representative democracy in Australia, which I may say is by no means perfect. There are plenty of groups in Australia over Australia's history who have been appallingly treated and locked out of the discourse. There are people like that now. One obvious example is the Aborigines, another example is the long-term unemployed. And I'm not saying for a moment that our system of government can't be improved. I'm also not saying that our constitution can't be improved. What I am saying, though, is if we use our tradition creatively in a forward-looking fashion, we will see that one thing our tradition gives us is an apolitical head of state that exercises procedural, not substantive powers. The head of state can't make laws or put people in jail or anything like that, but the head of state can exercise procedural power to make sure that the substantive decision makers like the parliaments and the executive and Mr Keating and all the rest of them keep themselves in line and behave in accordance with what we think a liberal representative democracy ought to be. And that's why we must be fighting against the Republic, and that's why we must, if necessary, stick ourselves on the line and stand up to be counted at the right time. And the right time to stand up and be counted in this debate is right now. Now, Australia already has, in my view, a system of government as good as any in the world. Everyone's always talking about, world-class exports and world-class restaurants and award-winning bottles of wine and things. Well, we have a world-class, award-winning system of government. If there were a Nobel Prize for stable representative government, then I don't think there's any country in the world that could take it away from Australia. And the last time I debated with the Republicans, which was out of Deakin University, I actually said to them, you tell me the country overseas that is better governed than Australia. And of course they couldn't. We could look around the world at countries that you might say are governed as well as Australia, and I think if you look carefully you'll probably see that the majority of them are in fact constitutional monarchies with apolitical heads of state. There are countries that are governed as well as Australia, and there are even republics that have the same sort of stability as Australia does, although many of them have other sorts of problems that we don't have about the balance of power. But there's no country or no system of government you can come along and say, well, this is heaps better than Australia, it's just streets ahead, so let's abandon ours and take that. That's why it is so silly and narrow-minded to look abroad for models of how we should govern our country. Now, America's a republic, let's be like America. Now, to me, that is a bad form of cultural cringe in itself. We should be proud of the system of government that we have developed with its apolitical head of state, a system that is unique to Australia, although there are other Commonwealth countries that have similar systems, and a system which has served us well and which, with creative adaptation, can essentially continue to serve us well. There is a broader minimalist approach. All you have to do is sort of go through the Constitution with a red crayon and cross out Governor-General, writing President, and you've done it. well, you know, I only have 5 minutes to talk to you today. I think it'll probably take me, you know, 5 days or 5 weeks to explain all the reasons why that's impossible. But, you know, the majority of constitutional lawyers who've already looked at it, don't just take my word for it, say that that sort of thing is simply not on. The Republic is something that is being imposed regardless of the will of the people by Canberra. It is not something that you are expected to have in place. You are expected to get close up to whatever Mr. Keating says and then just say yes or no. We say no to that, we oppose that. We're happy to talk about constructive change, we're happy to talk about a constitutional convention to decide what sort of adaptations we should make to our constitution to carry it forward into the next century, but we also say no republic.
Thank you, Jim. To me, what this debate is really about is myth and reality. The Prime Minister is possessed with leaving his mark on Australia, and the only thing I think he will leave is a scar. His pathological hatred of our country's history hasn't prepared him very well for a rational analysis of the issues at stake. Our non-Labor politicians haven't got too much to be proud of either. Most of them seem to be Keating's backup chorus. He says he wants a republic. Their answer is me too. One would think those individuals who choose to become politicians have strong convictions and want to follow them in Parliament. The only thing this group appears to be doing is following opinion polls, but they can't even do that properly. The Herald Sun hotline, which was taken the day after the Prime Minister delivered his manifesto on the Republic, had a record response of over 4,000 people, and 81% of those people said that they did not want a republic to replace our constitutional monarchy. And I quote from the Prime Minister's speech on the 7th of June, "Governments can wait for opinion to force their hand or they can leave." Well, doesn't that say it all? And he doesn't even understand the innate falseness of making a statement like that in our democracy. We're not a benevolent dictatorship. Ideally, we're supposed to be a representative democracy. I prefer to think of the Australian people forcing the government to act, rather than the Australian people being forced to accept whatever hodgepodge policy is thrown in their face by whatever government of the day. And the time has come for all Australians to question the myths that all politicians are delivering through the radio, newspapers and the television. Much of this debate has so far centred around confusion of the Constitution and all its parts. I think we do need to make a very important distinction, and that is that there are broadly two parts to our Constitution. Firstly, there are the parts which are elemental to the substance of our democracy, the parts which established our country as a constitutional monarchy. These elements are the foundation, and everyone in this debate has accepted the stability of our political and legal system. Despite this acceptance, pro-Republicans want to attack the very cause of this stability. I don't understand it. I don't see the logic in it. If they really want to improve our political system, they should turn their attention to the other elements of the Constitution that go to the actual working of government. One example of urgent reform is the external affairs power in our Constitution, which has been abused by this government to give itself increased legislative powers that the Australian public has refused on a number of occasions to give them through referendum. Isn't it a great irony that this Prime Minister labels all of us who oppose a republic as anti-Australian? He's the man who deliberately snubs the Australian electorate and their wishes and prefers to increase his legislative powers with the assistance of foreign organisations like the ILO and the United Nations. Well, it's no wonder that young people like myself feel disillusioned. Our politicians don't even pretend to want to listen to us anymore. They're totally ignoring us and going overseas. It's time for Canberra politicians to remember that in our democracy, they are supposed to be the servants of the people and not their masters.
Thank you, Sofie. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you all Mr. Ross Clark. Ross has been part of Australia since 1973 when he migrated here from the United Kingdom. A shop steward for the last 18 years with the Communication and Electrical Postal Union and the Federated Clerks Union, Ross is a forthright champion for his beliefs, calling the shops as he sees them, and a rallying point for common sense. Please welcome Ross Clark.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a shop steward and have been for 18 years. I am a proud monarchist and trade unionist, which seems to some people unusual, but not to me and many of my workmates. As you may be aware, the ACTU decided to commit the trade union movement to a republic without so much as a by or leave to the rank and file, and no consensus whatsoever of 4.5 million people. This is the form of the proposed republic, and mine boggles. As one of my fellow shop stewards said to me, who is a Republican by the way, they didn't ask us, did they? Anyway, this was too much for me to bear. Up to that point, I, like most monarchists, was running silent and running deep. I decided to surface and nail my colours to the mast. That's why I'm standing here now. Now, why am I a monarchist? I believe constitutional monarchy presents the best form of balanced government in the world. I only have to cite countries such as Belgium, Holland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, UK, Canada, New Zealand, and of course Australia. And of late, Spain, which had its monarchy reintroduced by an avid Republican, General Franco, in its final years. This one, judgment erred, obviously on his side. The Republicans have not told us about that one, by the way. Perhaps it's too hard to distort recent history. The Republicans have promised us an Australian head of state via the Republic, but as they are not a group of psychics, they cannot promise us a head of state that is politically incorruptible. But I, as a monarchist, can. The last monarch who suffered from the ailment of political corruptness had the unfortunate experience of having his head separated from his body by one of the greatest Republicans of all time, i.e. Oliver Cromwell, who, by the way, also reinstated the monarchy in his latter years. He also erred on the side of better judgment. Our system is tried and tested, and it works extremely well. People like Cromwell took the wrinkles out of the system hundreds of years ago and left us with a system that is the envy of the world. A system full of checks and balances, the ultimate democracy, a word that in most republics, that is a dirty one. We must stand together on this issue as it is so vital to Australia's future. We must appeal to all classes, races and creeds, for the middle ground has yet to be captured by either side. A tragedy in itself, the division in this nation at the moment. We in Australia have a proud tradition of sovereignty under a monarch who is truly above politics. Our system since Federation has served us well in the most dangerous century in history. While other countries, mainly republics, have crumbled under this century's strain, we have stood true and proud. 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the nuclear threat, and dramatic sociological change, and we have never lost our sense of freedom and fair play. The checks and balances work like a well-oiled machine, something to be proud of and well worth maintaining. Godspeed in our quest, and God save the Queen in Australia, because nothing will save them in country.
Thank you, Ross Clark. Our next speaker is Professor Bill Rubenstein. Bill is the Professor of History at Deakin University, and he brings to the debate a perspective from the world of the academics, an important part of the thinking of our nation, and it's very good to have him with us today.
Thank you very much. Let me tell you 3 reasons why I'm a constitutional monarchist. First, I'm a traditionalist, and I'm at a loss to see why we should end and destroy 200 years of our history for no reason. If our constitutional monarchy did not serve us well, if it plainly did not work, if there were a genuine popular movement to reform our government, then I might be persuaded to change my mind. But as I do not have to convince anyone here, none of these conditions exist. Except for the fact that Mr. Keating raised the issue of the monarchy out of the blue, purely in order to divert attention from his government's woeful economic failures. No one in Australia's public life, with the possible exception of predictable fringe figures, would conceivably have raised the issue of the monarchy. Instead, we are being forced to debate and discuss a fundamental change to our Constitution, marked by a fundamental break with the past, for no reason whatever, except to satisfy one seemingly clever politician's desire to get re-elected. Establishing a republic will have none of the positive benefits which its supporters imagine. Indeed, it is perhaps the most basic premise of the scheme proposed last week by Mr. Keating that as little will change as possible, while having profoundly deleterious psychological effects on at least 1/2 of the population, which continues to respect the monarchy as an institution and a symbol, and remains loyal to that symbol. I hope this analogy won't be misunderstood, but I know how the ardent supporters of Footscray and Fitzroy must feel when they are told from on high that their clubs must vanish. Of course, ending the monarchy will not merely be the end of 200 years of history, but part of a process of rewriting Australia's history, to negate the utterly fundamental contributions made by Britain to Australia's development. It is the beginning of a policy of historical and cultural amnesia, which is clearly intended by many in the Republican camp. Now, the second reason why I'm a constitutional monarchist is one which some listeners may find paradoxical, namely that it has been under our benign constitutional monarchy that Australia's post-war system of multiculturalism has flourished. Many backers of the Republic support the Republic in part because it is supposed to be more liberal and tolerant than the so-called exclusivist and narrow society represented by our present system. The precise opposite appears to be the case. Since the 1950s, it has been wholly under our constitutional monarchy that Australia has evolved into a multicultural society and away from one which was intended to be 98% British in its origins. I do not believe that this has been coincidental. The absence of a strong, intrusive, nationalistic head of state, and the fact that our formal head of state is overseas, has almost certainly facilitated this evolution, and has served, in my view, to enhance Australia's pluralism and toleration beyond what would have been the case if we had had some sort of powerful tin pot head of state resident here. In any case, Australia's actual head of state is, of course, resident here, our Governor-General, unfortunately, who for the last 35 years or so has always been an Australian. One rather important thing which Mr. Keating has not mentioned, and has received very little press publicity, is what becomes of our flag, our Union Jack flag, which flew over Australia's troops at all the wars of this century. Shouldn't this grossly British symbol be the first thing to go? What does Mr. Keating and the Republicans, what do they have up their sleeve once they have forced us to approve a referendum on the Republic? I think, thirdly, that Mr. Keating and the Republicans fail to understand the actual demographic facts of Australia's society and have been carried away by their exaggerated notions of the wrong implications of multiculturalism. Despite all the immigration which has taken place into Australia since the Second World War, about 75% of the Australian population remains of so-called Anglo-Celtic descent, and only 1/4 of Australians are descended from all of the other ethnic strands which now make up our nation. It is not appreciated, I think, that over 1/2 of the immigrants who have come to Australia since 1945 have come from English-speaking countries, chiefly Britain, of course, but also from other Commonwealth constitutional monarchies like New Zealand, Canada, and South Africa prior to 1961. Furthermore, a major share of the immigrants of non-English-speaking background have also migrated from benign and popular monarchies, from the Netherlands and the Scandinavian countries to Thailand, Malaysia, and Cambodia. For this reason, the almost deafening silence in the public opinion surveys which have followed Mr. Keating's most recent announcement of the nature of his republic did not surprise me at all. There are far more of us, and in seemingly the most unlikely places than Mr. Keating realizes or the media understands. As things stand, unless our side lets things go by default, the Republic, it seems to me, has virtually no chance whatever to be approved by a referendum for decades to come, and my guess is that if a referendum is ever held, the Republic will receive less than a majority of the vote, and certainly won't pass. As to it being inevitable, let me remind you that in the 1930s and the 1940s, the triumph of communism and socialism were considered equally inevitable, especially by socialists and communists, as society evolved by historical necessity to a higher stage. Today, not only are socialism and communism not inevitably in power, but they are dead, having proven to be among the most appalling and unpopular systems of governments ever devised. Now, I do not think that we have done enough, and that we have often failed at our side to be as clever or as resourceful as we ought to have been. In no sense, of course, is this a criticism of the leaders of the constitutional monarchist cause here, like Tony Abbott, Jim Ramsay, and others who have rendered yeoman service to the cause. I think, however, for instance, that once the terrible committee was constituted to devise plans for a republic, we should have constituted our own high-profile committee of experts to devise a sensible program to modernize and adapt our constitutional monarchy for the next century. It has been suggested, for instance, that it become a requirement in law as well as in fact that the Governor-General always be an Australian citizen. There may well be other ways in which we can take the initiative in suggesting a modern, genuinely popular constitutional monarchy for the decades ahead, a proactive rather than a reactive program which would place us in an even stronger position than we now occupy. I have no doubt whatever that we will win. We fight for the true and legitimate heritage of Australian democracy against an arrogant attempt at partisan self-glorification and at the pointless abandonment of our historical traditions. This cause is just, and it is also popular, a combination which will prove invincible in any referendum.
Our final speaker will need no introduction to an audience in Melbourne. Ruxton, as the state president of the Return Services League, is well known to every Victorian. The one thing I'm particularly glad about is that those of us who are working to ensure that the Australian people fully understand the consequences of the battlefields of bygone days or the battle for the hearts and minds of Australia's future, the returned servicemen, I'd like to have Aussies on our side. Would you welcome Rubenstein?
two quick points before we get into this Republican business. The euphoria created by the press after the Prime Minister's announcement in the Parliament a week or so back would have paled Dr. Joseph Goebbels into insignificance. I'll back what the Professor said about the economy. You see, with all the things that are going wrong in Australia, here we have the Republic dumped on us, and it's all you hear about. Last July in London, the papers were filled because the unemployment in that country had dropped to just over 2 million, and they've got 60 million people. Here we are with 1 million and 17 million. Last December, the International Herald Tribune, they quoted that the American unemployment on the front page had dropped to 5.8%, and here we are at about just under 10%. And I got this quote, this paper from what I found quickly, the International Herald Tribune again of the 31st of May, just a few weeks ago. The headline reads, "Jobless rate in Japan stirs new fears of a recession. Unemployment hits 3.2%. The worst figure since 1953. For goodness sake, where are we going?" It is quite obvious, ladies and gentlemen, that the debate, this Republican debate and the Republican movement has degenerated into a vicious, ugly argument conducted by rabid packs of overeducated opportunists, grant-funded blushes, the money the Turnbull got for that advisory committee, pseudo-academics and professional ethics of all races, all of them scavenging like frothing hyenas to take over this country, which the Japanese couldn't even do in 1942. With a shameful, stacked jury, hand-picked to produce a rigged verdict, it was no more than a constitutional kangaroo court, acting like doomsday dogs, blowing their bags about the alleged virtues of this Republican nonsense. They have all voted and raved, including Mr. Keating, Senator Shackle, I nearly said something else, Philip Adams, Professor Horn, Geraldine Durgan, and our old friend Mr. Tom Keneally. And other non-entities, mainly from the Chardonnay Senate in Sydney. There was no doubt that something was going to happen. Gough yesteryear said that the Queen must go, and he said maintain the reins. He then went on to say that the President should be elected by MPs in a very democratic fashion. This was taken up by the Prime Minister. Young Malcolm Turnbull is on record as saying that the President should be elected by both houses of Parliament sitting separately, but he did give other options. Paul has altered this slightly by having a combined sitting of both houses with a 2-2 majority, which very likely would never be achievable. There has been a lot of talk about the reserve powers of the Governor-General. Remember the reign back in 1975. But now, with his minimalist approach, Keating's going to give it to the new President. And think about that, some political demon has been elevated into that office. Eminent jurists such as the Right Honourable Sir Harry Gibbs and Mr. Justice Michael Kirby have said time and time again that the whole free structure of our present way of life could tumble with a republic. Mr. Justice Kirby is on record as saying when he raised the spectre of instability akin to that of Russia if we became a republic. By the way, I've just returned from Russia and things are crooked there. Sir Harry is also on record as saying a republic is the first step to a dictatorship, and you would have seen him repeat that in the paper this week. However, it was the clerk of the Senate, Mr. Harry Evans, who really summed it up by saying the advocates of Australia becoming a republic are seeking concentration of power in the Prime Minister and Cabinet, and which you'll have in a single House of Parliament. Think about it. That is the hidden agenda, or one of them. He also said that we will drift into a system with virtually unlimited powers, and this, of course, was backed by the former Chief Justice Sir Harry Gibbs. If the debate on the Republic should proceed, it should proceed on the basis of accuracy and truth, not distortion and untruths. Mr. Turnbull has also argued and advised that Australia should have its own head of state, and this, of course, has become the main argument from the Prime Minister. For goodness sake, the Governor-General is now our head of state. Sir John Kerr was on record as saying that when he prorogued the Parliament in 1975, he never informed the Queen, he just did it. And may I remind you that Section 5 of the Constitution says, and I quote, the Governor-General may appoint such times for holding the sessions of Parliament as he thinks fit, and may also from time to time, by proclamation or otherwise, prorogue the Parliament, and may in a like manner dissolve the House of Representatives. At no time is a consultation with the Queen necessary. Dame Leonie Kramer and Professor Blaney have for a long time argued that the Governor-General is Australia's head of state. The Prime Minister's resentment of the monarch is only surpassed by his hatred of the Australian flag, and maybe the other hidden agenda is just plain, straight British fashion. Mr. Keating reportedly says we could do better in South East Asia if we were a republic, notwithstanding so few of them are constitutional monarchies. The countries in South East Asia do not understand our constitution, linking us with the monarch. And I ask you the question, do we know anything about the constitution of the monarchies of Thailand, Japan or Malaysia? Or for that reason, the republics in our region? Of course the answer is no, and in fact, so many people in this country know nothing about our constitution. How could they? They've never been taught in school. Therefore, we cannot abandon our heritage or history, as Bill Rubenstein has already said, because Asia doesn't understand our constitution. It is rather interesting to read how some of the comments made in Asia about our thrust toward a republic, and some 2 years ago, the headlines of the Fairfax Sydney Morning Herald read, Keating's Republic Bush gets press night in China. Some 10 days later, on the 16th of April, the Fairfax Melbourne Age headline read, China blasted on human rights. And of course, in a republic such as China, human rights and human dignity do not exist. How many republics around the world have human rights or human dignity? Mr. Keating, Mr. Turnbull and Mr. Keneally's repeated reference to get rid of foreign domination bemuses me, considering that get rid of the foreign queen. But now this afternoon, this country owes $200 billion for foreigners, for goodness sake. And I suggest that's the foreign dominance that we should get rid of. There should be no forelock tugging to a foreign queen. I would sooner forelock tug to our present queen than to the Japanese emperor, the president of Germany, or the president of Indonesia. Mr. President, remarks over recent times by saying, and I quote, that a nation defines itself by being different. Only colonies continue to borrow monarchs of other lands. He went on to say we must go it alone. All I can say, I'm glad it's not 1942. It was rather interesting to read an editorial in the Republican newspaper, The Australian, on the 31st of July 93, when it stated, when the Republic has a friend like Malcolm Turnbull, who needs enemies? And I find that comment most interesting. Of course, it is a hidden agenda, and that is what we have been saying all along. More power to the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. The Constitution will virtually have to be decimated, because the monarch has been mentioned no fewer than in 21 sections, and the Governor-General has been mentioned in no fewer than 36 sections. And we all hear from the Prime Minister that this will be a minimalist approach to the change. How could he say that? Dame Phyllis Frost said, and I quote, "It is not so much the power of the monarch as the power of the monarch has to prevent other people having undesirable power." That's a Professor Eugene Forsyth said, "The danger of the royal absolutism has passed, it's gone. But the danger of cabinet absolutism, or even of prime minister absolutism, is present and growing. I say this to you all, that the danger of the reserve power, or in the president, could be of a catastrophe to Australia, even though the Crown has that power. If the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia is desecrated, and they must desecrate it, as it must be, to become a republic, there is no doubt they will thrust a new constitution upon the Australian people. Politicians from both sides of the House, both Labor and Liberal, have joined hands on many occasions in an attempt to change our constitution by referendum, and they have failed. You see, politicians hate our constitution because it gives orders, because we, the people, give orders to them. They hate it because the man their Bills of Rights and the printing attempts to bring them in, and United Nations conventions that circumvent the Constitution are dangerous. Indeed, because Bills of Rights and United Nations conventions give you orders from them. That's the difference. The Crown, the common law, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia must always remain above the Parliament and not go underneath it. Otherwise, our safety valve will disappear. When Sir John Kerr broke the Parliament in 1975, he did not run away to Buckingham Palace with the Parliament in his pocket, because he had to give it back to you, the people of Australia, according to the Constitution, to confirm or otherwise his actions. His actions were confirmed, that the people of Australia could have put Whitlam back. That was the decision of the people. The person that won the seat won with a 55-seat majority. It must have been confirmed, even though he made a mess of it. You see, it is not hero worship. It is not hero worship of some man or woman in London. That is not the argument whatsoever. It is the institution of the Crown. That's the argument. Forget about the royals and their behaviour, because they have been getting in and out of one another's bed for 1,000 years. They have survived executions, revolutions, murder, madness, and if you don't mind, one had syphilis. Remember, they have survived the hereditary monarch. Remember, it is the institution of the Crown that is always important. Please ask any Republican, and I'll repeat what our friend here from the trade union movement said. Ask any Republican, what country on earth, except in the United States of America, is freer than, which is a republic, is freer than Australia? They can't answer. We've been questioned too. What people on earth that live in a republic, including the United States of America, are freer than Australians, and they have gone on both questions. We have inherited the richest heritage on earth, formed out of 1,000 years of anarchy. The heritage that has given the world a free parliament, the common law, and if you think about it, it's about everything that's decent. It was our heritage that saved the world twice this century. And forget what the history revisionists keep telling people. The continual British bashing that has been going on now from people in high places, including the Prime Minister, particularly the other day when he talked about Alexander Dowland playing with his toys, HMS Repulse, and the Prince of Wales in his bathtub. What a sick sort of a statement that was. Mr. Keating also needs a real good history lesson, particularly over his outburst in the Parliament some time back about the British in Southeast Asia during World War II. He should have known that the British left 138,000 of their own soldiers behind in Southeast Asia. He should have been told too that the Americans had only been in the war 6 weeks. He should have also been told if it wasn't for the United Kingdom and its dominions and colonies that held the fort for 2 years, goodness knows what would happen. And especially the four corners of the earth, and he complained about South East Asia. Unfortunately, of course, mistakes were made there, but the Anglo-Saxon Celtic race always made mistakes before they become an outright winner. You all know that. I just want to say this in closing, and I'll repeat what's been said by our friend from the trade union movement. I just go a bit further. Nine of the longest serving democracies by 100 miles, 7 of them are still constitutional monarchies. Have you heard what was said? United Kingdom, Australia, Canada and New Zealand, Denmark, Sweden and Norway. The 8th, all of the same mother, the United States, and the 9th's different anyway, Switzerland. Thank you for listening to me. The only thing I can now add is God save Mr. Keating and long live the Queen. Thank you.
Sofie, to Bill, Michael, and to Ruxton. Together they have painted the picture as we see it so clearly. The job we have in front of us is to get everyone out there across our community seeing it as clearly. But this is an important step. The ongoing challenge is to widen the understanding throughout our whole community. It needs to be into our schools, it needs to be into our universities, into our trade colleges. It needs to be into the media. And when I talk about the media now, I'm talking about the men and women of the media who are working. Because amongst those journalists, and I'm not naming anyone in particular, there is an equal degree of ignorance about these fundamental truths that are the basis of our Constitution. And when I heard one of the ABC holiday announcers running a talk back, and somebody said to her, painted a picture where the government might do something very terrible, she said, oh, they couldn't do that without asking the Queen, could they? That's the level of understanding that some of our media journalists have. And they need to understand it as well as the people for whom they are writing. So what can we do? What can you do? First, sign the charter. There are copies at the door, there are copies on your seats. If you haven't signed it yet, please do. If you have, pass it on to someone else. As we build up the thousands who have now signed for the Charter to higher and higher numbers, the understanding in the community will grow. We have determined, that Australia's constitutional monarchy has determined as part of its No Republic campaign to establish no Republic branches right throughout the Commonwealth. If you can take an initiative in your area to help establish such a branch, please leave your name and address with someone at the door as you're leaving today. If you're not able to take the initiative but you would like to join a branch, you will be notified if you're already a supporter as these branches get moving. Link up with a branch in your area. If you want to get out on the hustings with Bruce Ruxton and others like us, let's have your name and we'll put you on our speakers panel. Fly the flag, because the flag is part of our campaign. I'll tell you why. You don't have to scratch a Republican very deeply to find they want to change the flag too. They don't like to talk about it, particularly when you're in a debate on the media, but that is an essential part of their total agenda. You can help with the finances. Our campaign has been funded by individuals and individuals alone. One can hope that in the government's plans to improve the education of our community regarding the Constitution, they may well give some funds to help improve the understanding of our Constitution and how well it works too. But that hasn't happened yet, so please give and give generously. Some of our supporters will be at the door with buckets, so you can make an immediate donation now, or you can write that cheque, or write the cheque as well when you get home. We need the finances to do it. One of the important weapons in our campaign at the moment is this book, The Australian Constitutional Monarchy. Copies are available as you leave for a donation of $20, but it is now going out to all the bookstores. All the bookstores. Ask for it in your local bookshop. If they say they haven't heard of it, tell them it is being distributed by Ken Price and Associates, a well-known book distributor based here in Melbourne. Ken Price and Associates. Remember that and stir that into the trade, because as the issue becomes more widely debated, people are going to be looking for the information, and you won't remain a Republican once you've read that book, if you read it honestly. So, please leave your name if you can help in any way at all. Thank you for being here today, and may we go forward from here on, making no republic the norm for the next few years, and this referendum, the proposed referendum of the Prime Minister's, if it doesn't die on the vine, it will be so resoundingly defeated by the people of Australia that the Republicans will come to their senses. So, God save Australia, and good luck to you all. Farewell.